Hi guys, it's Sunday night. Can only mean the APAT Show. And we're back on Facebook, Leigh, and we're back with a registered event. So hopefully people were able to get little reminders and stuff like that. We'll see. Hopefully it'll work.
All three of our Facebook fans will be able to get a notification to say that we're live. That's what you want. That is what you want. So we're back on. This is like a back-to-back weekend for us. Obviously, we did the whole book launch last night with Rob Needham. That was absolutely fantastic. But we're back to the regular Sunday night slot where we talk all things poker, don't mention football, and life will be a breeze. We'll be done before you know it. Yeah.
Let's do it. Well, listen, on the poker front, we'll not come on to the football. Did you see what I did there? But on the poker front, what have we got going tonight, Leigh?
So it is the usual Sunday night. It is week 32 of Leaderboard Ladders. Some regular names at the top. Matty Ogilvy is currently top of the leaderboard. 3 cashes this week from Matty, closely followed by Ilfracombe's very own Tony Ross.
Not surprised.
3 cashes as well. Yeah. And Konstantin Chersin from Russia. He's had 3 cashes as well this week. So they're the top 3 at the moment. Denis Zhukov from Ukraine actually has had 2 cashes. He's only a couple of points behind those guys. So they're all playing for the top 5 positions. But it's 4 tournaments tonight. Deep Stack has already concluded. Gilmore Quires from Brazil picks up the win there with $225. Andrei Sidorov was from the Ukraine was in 2nd place. And Philip Muller, who's playing out of Malta, was in 3rd. So that's already been done. The No Limit Hold'em main event, it's on a final table. We'll bring that up in a second. They're actually down to 8 players, I think, now on that final table. Martin Mulso is currently chip leader in that. Richard Rudling Smith is on that final table. Yanni Ilfracombe's 2nd best poker player is on that final table, as is Marcus Oltkirch from Mexico, who's a regular player with APAT. 2,500 in the prize pool for that one. So that'll be playing down to a winner tonight with that one. The PLO main event, we're closed now, just got past the guarantee on that, so 1,050 in the prize pool. We're down to 10 in that, 35 runners in that, so we'll keep an eye on that final table as well. Brendan Byrne is in there, Tony Ross is in there. To be honest, there's all the usual regular names that you would expect. And finally, the 9 o'clock turbo, that's closed now for registration. $500 in the guarantee. There's just the 720 tonight, 72 runners in that, and we'll keep you abreast of the action in that one. But let's shoot straight across to the No Limit Hold'em final table. So we're down to 8, so let's get that up on screen.
Your table, Leigh, your table. I'm not getting there. It looks like some sort of nuclear reactor type image there. Can we try that again?
Very bad. Yeah, let's try that again. We'll see if we can do something about that.
While you're having a play with that, isn't it great to see names in the chat box, right? Actual names as opposed to Twitch user handles and stuff. Drew Atkins is there. He says, "Get the harps." Right, so it's good to be back. And Yanni is there. He says, "Yay, Facebook." So good to hear from you guys. If you've got any comments, thoughts, chat points, drop them in the box there, and we'll bring them up on the show.
Let's try that and see whether that is any better.
Yeah, that's immediately. That looks better.
There we go. That looks a bit more like it. Lovely stuff. There we go. So we're down to 8 in this. Our chip leader at the moment is Martin Mulso, as I mentioned, with 904,000 in chips. Blinds are 8,000, 16,000. So we'll just tick this along and see how we go. Top prize night, $676. These guys are all guaranteed just shy of $100 at the moment for a $33 buy, although some might have got in for $3.30. So all good as far as that goes.
Fantastic.
So I would say I normally would say how's your week been, Des, but obviously we briefly spoke about how's your week been last night with Rob. It was good hour last night. I thought it was really interesting getting to talk to Rob about the book. Now it was finally out there, and he could share all the juicy details with us.
Yeah, and it's like you just have to respect the amount of time and effort that goes into writing something like that. Not to mention 3 of them back to back. He's done them quite quickly. They all flow, beautifully, and we would absolutely want to support that type of initiative and work ethic. It is very much in our sweet spot, being poker orientated, and I think he was in good form. He was really happy with the end product. I think we've both read.
Do you know what I found amazing? For those that didn't see the stream last night, Rob mentioned he'd kind of he kind of totted up how many downloads the 3 books had now got. Obviously, the latest book only came out on Friday, so he's only had a couple of days of this. And in his head, he was kind of thinking, well, if I've got to, 1,000 with all of them, bear in mind, he's not claiming to be a professional writer. He does this as a bit of a hobby, but he's very good at it, and it's kind of growing. And maybe one day that's where it'll eventually take him. And he said he totted up, and it was at 4,500 downloads.
Yeah.
Which is phenomenal.
Yeah. So that's like unique readers. 4,500 have read his stuff. And you get a feeling that there's, you might say a fine line, but it's probably quite a thick line in reality between real success and failure. I mean, like everything else, it's about awareness, right? So the more people that are made aware of this book and give it a shot, the more they're going to like it and share the good news. So 4,500, I think, is a great number, but that number could easily be 45,000 or more, if he can find the way just to increase that awareness over time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're out there now. For anyone that's not read them, it's the Steve Ash trilogy. It's very much it's Rob Needham. You go on Amazon and you will find the books there. That's the latest one. This is where you bluff, but he's also got this is where you fold, and this is where you call. Available as well. I think the third one will be out in paperback in the next week or so, but you can get them all literally instantly on a Kindle now if you want to. Just watching aces versus kings on this final table, and Richard Rudling Smith has busted the aces of Michael Riley with a king on the flop. Wow. There was options for Michael there with the 10 and the jack as well. The queen would have given him Broadway, but he doesn't get there, so Richard gets a full double up on this final table. What a time for your kings to bust aces there's on a final table. That's what you want,
perfect.
Isn't it?
It's just perfect timing, really. Yeah. And Rudders is, he's been massively consistent over the last couple of months. He's had a lot of good runs with us. It's interesting to see Yanni back there on that final table as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I know we talk about the regular names that seem to do well in these leaderboard ladders, but the fact is that to get into the top 20, if you win one of the higher runner tournaments in the week, that can sometimes be enough to get you in the top 20. I know these guys, we talk about them while they're cashing in 2, 3, or maybe 4 in a week, so it means they're playing a lot of them, but they're consistent in what they do as well, which makes a massive difference in how it pans out for them. But ultimately, if you can only play 3 or 4 tournaments a week, that's not a problem either.
No,
really
absolutely
isn't.
Right. You can still do it. But, part of this is it's not always about winning, right? It's about taking part and progressing and what have you. You don't necessarily need to be in the top 3. I mean, the top 20 is a pretty big target to hit. And with 1 or 2 good runs, you can be well deep into that top 20. That should be the target completely. Every week.
Yeah, that's very much the way to look at it, which is all good. So yeah, as I said, blinds just gone up to 10,000, 20,000 in this. So our short stack is Marcus. He's got 160k, which is about 8 bigs, which is still kind of playable. The blinds have just gone through him, so he's in a situation where he's got a little bit of breathing space to wait and see what to do. Yanni's obviously the next short stack with just over 11 bigs. I would imagine both of these players will just be looking for a spot to maybe see if they can get a shove through at the moment. Of course, looking at even the chip leader, which is Martin at the moment, it's only got sort of 4 times what they've got. So certainly it's not going to be that difficult to get a shove through, because I don't see the chip leader doing off 25% of his stack too lightly. At this point, when we're not yet at the big pay jumps yet, really. So it's still kind of ICM is very much going to play a key here, as you don't want to be a chip leader coming onto a final table and then busting in 9th, 8th, or 7th.
No, absolutely.
That's really not the way you want to play it. It does happen at times, but if you can avoid it, it certainly is. It's not considered a very good way to have used those chips.
No, absolutely. Listen, let me give you a couple updates from the chat box, beginning to warm up there, I would say, Leigh. So Mr. Ross is in there and says evening all, as he does every week. Yanni's there. He said, I was still trying to get into Twitch. He's been several weeks trying to get into Twitch now. And still, he's the Ilford comes best. Tony hasn't won the Christmas Welly comp yet. So Yanni is hanging on to the number 1 title by a thread. Mr. Needham is out there and says, good evening, guys. Good evening to you, Rob.
He double cashed last night, by the way. So he
Did
played both. He played both of the knockout
it's a
tournaments
fix.
last night,
It's a fix.
and he cashed in both of them. So
It's a fix. He said, "Thanks for the kind words. I had a blast yesterday. It was really good." And Mr. Ward is there. Evening, gents. Stew.
didn't matter. So I'm taking Stu didn't get to any of the American football at Tottingham's ground. Obviously, it was the second game this afternoon. Of the kind of the NFL games in
Was it really?
in the UK. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
very impressive at Tottenham's new ground. Obviously, they used to play them at Wembley, and now they're at Tottenham. And obviously, with the pitch that moves out, and it's a very close pitch, and I mean, it's a stunning place to watch sport. And American football really does fit in there so well to watch as a as a sport. I mean, I'm tempted to want to try and maybe go to a game at some point in the future, just because you don't need to support either of the sides necessarily, just to be able to go along and experience that as a as a game. It looks super impressive with the pitch. Did you ever get around to watching that that Richard Hammond program I mentioned, where he does it behind the scenes at Tottenham's new ground?
No,
fascinating. He crawls under the pitch to all of the mechanics under there, because obviously it comes out in 3 pieces, the football pitch it's fascinating to watch. It's I think it might be on a Discovery Channel or something. It's like a series about big engineering projects.
Okay.
And one of them is Tottenham Stadium. It's fascinating to watch for an hour. Really good.
I would
love that
like
kind of stuff.
It does look like a magnificent stadium.
Yeah, it is quite impressive. I don't think there's many clubs in the Premier League that wouldn't be jealous of Tottenham's stadium, as it now stands. I think everyone would say, if I could have one of those. I know Anfield has a lot of history and everything else for you guys, but you're the same as Old Trafford to a certain extent. It's kind of like, well, ideally you'd build a purpose built with all the full-on corporate and everything to really maximize what you can do on a match day and the experience for the fans. But ultimately, you're never going to leave that footprint of a stadium. So obviously, you're expanding now. United have already invested in the last 15 years to expand, probably as big as they're ever going to get it. But that's where it is. Whereas these new stadiums now that are being built, what they're able to do with the experience. I mean, the Spurs one has got. Have you seen? They've got a like a VIP club that's right next to the tunnel, and it's a one way
with glass. Yeah.
So if you're sat in the bar, you can see the players queuing up to go out onto the pitch, but they can't see you. I mean, fantastic. It's just incredible as an experience. I know it's all corporate and it's not football fans. It's not about that, blah blah blah, and all that. But it's still a stunning thing to get to see. I think Man City have done a similar thing at the Etihad with some of what they can do, because they've developed that quite a lot as well.
They've put the glass on the other side though at the Etihad, so that the players can actually see the few punters lined up inside the VIP. There's only 3 of them.
But I love stadium. I love stadium design. I mean, I'm always looking to get an update on what they're doing at Real Madrid, as to where they are with that and everything, because it's just I just think sporting stadiums are incredible, and the design and what they come up with and how they do it is just phenomenal. I can't wait till we get to go out to Vegas, because now of course there's some big sporting teams based in Vegas. I mean, that adds a whole nother dimension to, as Marcus gets a double up with his King 7.
Is it the Golden Knights?
Yes, it is. Yeah. And some of the stuff that they do now, so the ice hockey, have you seen the some of the video projection they do pre-match, where they project onto the ice, and it's a full animated graphic? Oh, it's incredible. I mean, YouTube, it's on YouTube. Go and have a look at it with the opposing team. There's one they do with the Kraken comes up, and the ice hockey player's on there, and he's firing a puck at the Kraken, and the ice all cracks, and the Kraken fall. It's incredible. Yeah, really clever. Really impressive. It's a show. And somebody said, oh, it's taken a team going to Vegas for them to finally realize how to do kind of pre-match entertainment for the fans, that kind of thing. Vegas has learned how to do it.
Well, pre-match entertainment, of course, was a big thing for the Americans initially, going back some years, but it's got to be part of the game. All of the games going forward. Ultimately, you really have to entertain your fans now, and I think they're going to have to figure out a way to bring that entertainment or engagement into high streets going forward at some point, Leigh. You know, because people aren't going to be visiting for shops for too many more years. The
Not going
shops
to
are
be a lot
beginning to
left.
disappear.
Yeah, it's moved from kind of like well, a lot of the high street now is betting shops and coffee shops, isn't it? And
Yeah,
and that kind
yeah.
of thing.
Charity
Yeah,
shops and
yeah. It's certainly changed over the last decade. But that's what you want. Well, everything's changing in you know with the way the world's going. It's certainly a different landscape these days. A lot of it brought on by what's happened in the last 18 months with lockdown and everything. It's genuinely changed people's views on things. Interesting. Before I came on air tonight, I was on a call with our very own Mr. Tom Brady, having a catch up with Tom, because obviously the IPO is due to start later on this week, and he was saying it might not even happen because apparently Southern Ireland numbers have gone up, and they're not sure what restrictions are going to be released. But he also said even worse than that is there isn't an appetite for people to travel. So although there'll be people in Ireland that will go and play that event, and I hope for Nick and all the guys that they do get it up and running and they get some numbers there to make it a worthwhile event. But he said he'd normally take a group over, as everyone will know. Tom takes over, whether it was APAT people or the pub poker players, and no real take up for it. People just not fancying the traveling or the restrictions to get in, or the tests that they need to do, whatever's putting them off at the moment. So although there's a demand for poker local, just as we're watching Ace King versus King 10, Ace King at risk, and I think he's going to get it through, and Ian does get it through. So double up for him. But at the moment, it's people are quite happy getting in the car and going and playing a bit of poker where they don't have to worry about getting a test or getting in and out of a country. But at the moment, there isn't completely the appetite. Although I have seen a number of people saying now Mr. President Biden has confirmed the 8th of November for American travel.
Is it
all
the
of
8th?
a sudden, all of a sudden it's people that were saying, I wasn't going to the World Series. Oh, it looks like I am. So I've seen a number of professional players that had said, I mean, somebody even said,
had wrote that up.
Yeah, somebody even said to us they weren't going, and now all of a sudden they're like, well, actually, do you know what? And they're talking about, which is, I think this is fascinating to be interested to know what people think about this, because they've added on another 2 flights to the main event to coincide with this 8th of November. So they've basically given another couple of options for those traveling in, I think on the 8th and 9th, literally to do it. But when people were being asked, well, what are you going to do? Are you going to play 1E or 1F? Or a lot of people are saying, I think I might just buy in for 2, because you can still buy in.
Can you do that?
Yeah, you can buy in for at the start of day 2. So a lot of the pros are going, well, I think I'll probably just buy in at day 2 and take a punt at it with a shorter stack.
A $10,000 buy-in?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know from a point of view what the blind levels are. So we're just watching Marcus here with his ace-6 looking to bust in SC, and he does. Jack 5 no good there, so we are down to 6. So I'm not quite sure what the blind levels are. I'll have to check at the structures to see how many big blinds you still start with at the start of day 2. But ultimately, a lot of the pros are just going, well, I think I'll just fly in and play from day 2 and see what happens. I mean, you see plenty of people that play the World Series main event that I've made it through day 2, and you think, oh crikey, well, what stack have you got? And you see that it's not much bigger than than what they started the beginning of the day with. It feels very much more, it's more like getting through the day is more important than anything else. Be interested to know what people's views are of that. Would you want to, if you were playing the main event, would you want to jump in at a day 2 and play it, or does that not feel good value? Maybe it's a better value for maybe it's better value for a professional player, maybe that they can manage that off better than maybe a recreational player. I don't know. Interested to know what people's thoughts are on that. But that looks to be what's happening.
Have you been able to do that for long? Like by
I've
directly into
no
day 2?
idea. I've no idea.
It just feels it feels a bit odd for that particular event to be able to buy it. And I know it's quite a big thing, but
definitely I've seen people saying, just playing, just literally buying in at the start of day 2. So I know it's been a thing in the Millions series and a few others for quite a while now that's been an option. So
did you
we'll see.
Did you see Phil Hellmuth's rant?
Yes.
Well, that was an odd one.
Peculiar.
He just went a little over the top, right? So I have no
you
problems
never know
with
you never
his
know
rants,
with Phil. Yeah, you never know with Phil whether it's. I know we briefly spoke about it last night, and you said you have got the video, but you didn't want to play it.
Yeah, he was a bit over the top, really.
Yeah, you never know with him whether how much of it is meant. Obviously, he's had quite a frustrating time so far. He's desperate to pick up another bracelet, and he's had a couple of close runs, and probably feels when he sits down at a final table that. Maybe entitlement's not the right word, but he certainly feels there's very few final tables he's going to sit at where he doesn't feel he's got an edge over that final table, even whether that's even in his own head only. But obviously he's coming off the back of a lot of a decent successful run of heads up televised events. So the ego is certainly maybe dialed up to 11 at the moment in full on Spinal Tap traditions of he's right up there at the moment, so he's probably come into the World Series really pumped up and motivated that he's going to do something, and he's had a number of close misses, but I think it's good for poker, but at the same time he probably did slightly overstep the line when he's talking about burning down the Rio and
that might be a line.
Yeah.
I noted they'd cut that section from promos that they've created over the last few days. Poker Go have, so they've toned it down a bit.
But obviously, to them, it's perfect, isn't it? Because it's great. It's great coverage for them. It gets people to wanting to watch the coverage. I've never subscribed to Poker Go, so I've no. I mean, what's even a subscription for Poker Go? I've absolutely no idea what they charge.
From memory, it's about like $15 a month.
Okay.
I think if you pay monthly, and it might be a little bit less if you pay annually, but it's in that sort of ballpark.
It feels wrong that they can charge more than Netflix do, doesn't it? It does feel a little bit.
It's very nichey, right?
But
it's very nichey, so they don't have the Netflix scale of audience, as it were. So I guess if you're willing to sub, you're probably going to sub for 15 or 20 as often as you will for 5 or 10.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
But they're very good, Leigh. There's a lot of content on there, a lot of old stuff. Everything from high stakes poker to, of course, the old episodes of the World Series of Poker. And they live stream a lot of stuff. So they are very good at what they do, and they do it well. But you'd really want to like your poker, I think, to want to.
Yeah. I mean, as a business model,
that.
Des, does it? Do you? I mean, you've been in the industry for a long time, and many other industries for outside of kind of gaming. Does something like Poker Go feel like it's got legs in that it can actually be sustainable for them as a business venture? Because it can't be cheap to put on the content that they do, because they're doing it at such a high quality level. Obviously, I mean, for something like the APAT show, I mean, our budget here is extraordinary. And I can only imagine Poker Go must top that. How, I don't know, but they must do. They
probably do.
Yeah, they obviously don't have to incur your rider, but other than that, they'll be okay. But is it something at $15 a month for the number of subscribers? As you say, it's a niche interest.
Well, first of all, while the quality of what they do is very good, there's a couple of important things that we don't have to hand, and that is their cost base. So we don't know how much it costs them, right? And of course, once you pay for your equipment and your what have you, yes, there'll be depreciation every year. But once you've sunk that cash, you're then making profit on every show you do thereafter. So we don't fully appreciate their cost base. I would imagine they run it pretty tight, though. I would imagine they haven't got tons of people running around. Secondly, I suppose we don't fully appreciate the value of it to their partners, sponsors, whoever's behind the scenes trying to push, I don't know, GG Poker or Poker Stars, or so I don't know if they have any deals there that would bring in incremental revenue above and beyond. Don't know what sort of advertising revenues they make from the likes of YouTube and Twitch and the other channels. So those are all unknowns. And I suppose the final piece of the jigsaw would be, given that they have all of that equipment, we don't really know whether in fact they do, broadcasting work outside of gaming for other businesses in Las Vegas or Nevada or where, because they've got a superb studio. They've got all of the equipment and the talent. So, they may very well fill their Mondays and Tuesdays with different stuff.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it? Because when you compare the poker content, I mean, the kind of, the proper, the full-on professional poker with something like the kind of online gaming world, where they're playing for huge prize pools, playing e-gaming through sponsorship. I mean, they don't. Oh, they might pay an entry fee to play the tournament or whatever, but they're not. But most of the prize pool for those kind of things, it's like the lad that won, the guy from the UK that was, did he finish second in the FIFA one a couple of years ago? I know that made headlines, and he won like $1 million or something like that, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
And he's not paid. I mean, that's where poker is kind of unique, isn't it? Is the poker players create the prize pool, really.
Yeah.
You couldn't imagine a situation where all the best golf players in the world turned up and were told, right, it's $500,000 to enter this one. Who's up for it? Poker is quite unique in that situation.
Yeah, it is.
But it's interesting how poker still hasn't kind of got onto that level yet, where they're able to do that and can get to the broader picture. Although e-gaming is still niche. I mean, you don't see much. You see the odd e-gaming thing on terrestrial TV, maybe the odd show or series on it, but it's normally following a particular team in like a documentary style. And I think Amazon picked up on one particular one where they ran something on Amazon Prime. But other than that, you don't. So they're not doing what poker has been trying to do either in getting into the mainstream. But we have lost poker on terrestrial TV, where you used to have the late night poker and that kind of thing, which was there, on Channel 4 at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. That content doesn't seem to be getting out to the masses anymore.
Well, if you think of the companies who were paying for that content to be on TV, the likes of Full Tilt Poker, Poker Stars, were the big brands when a lot of money was being spent. And make no mistake, it was the operators that were paying enormous sums of money to enable everything to happen, albeit the players may well have been putting in the prize pool. But that money isn't being invested into poker these days, or if it is, it's been invested in other areas where it's far easier to assess whether or not your spend is acquiring players. So a lot of it would be spent on digital advertising or SEO and that sort of stuff. It's a different world today, really. There are just lots of other ways that you can do it. Of course, a ton of money's been invested into, well, I say a ton, I'm not sure if it's a ton, but a lot of funds would appear to be invested into streamers and just ordinary people with a following. So that's how they're reaching, new players. And it's all about new players today, as opposed to what we were doing 10 to 15 years ago.
Did you see one of the slot streamers last week had a ridiculous win on one of the slots? I think he was spinning at $2,000 a spin and hit a bonus on one of the slots and scooped just over $8 million in one go. Yeah.
Really?
Incredible. Yeah.
OMG, that's got to be the biggest.
I think it's still on. Yeah, I think it's still on his channel. If you want to check him out, Rothstein.
So it was Rothstein.
It was Rothstein. Yeah. He disappeared off streaming for 2 or 3 days afterwards. So I did have to chuckle because I thought of you this week, Des, simply because at one point he posted up on his Twitter account a video of him in a Ferrari, and it made me think of you. I don't know why. But,
oh, that's funny.
So Yanni's all in with his ace queen, and Ian's got 10 jack, and Ian's hit a jack, which means Yanni is going to depart. Yanni also had spade options there as well, but no good. And we're down to 4 very, very quickly in this. Michael's now the short start. Martin Mulso is still chip leader in this.
Yeah.
But we are down to 4.
Listen, Stu's out there saying, I miss late night poker on TV. It was so good to watch, which it was. And I guess that's why some people will value PokerGo subscription, because you can go back and rewatch all of that old stuff. I'm not sure if late night poker is there, but a lot of the classic old poker is there.
I'm guessing it must be. I mean, I guess, and the other thing with late night poker is, I mean, whenever we interview,
right?
pros. It also, people often say, oh yeah, that's how I got in. That's how I got into poker. That's what, yeah. But of course, that was when you had all these characters. So when we talk about Phil Hellmuth and blowing up at the World Series, the fact is that's the kind of character that you would have had on late night poker. Maybe not to that extreme, but of course, a lot of the poker in more recent years has been quite robotic in its, it's just straight faced online poker player sat at a live table, doesn't say hello, speak to anybody, and just does their thing. And of course, that's not entertaining for anyone to watch. Who wants, who wants to sit and watch that? Delving into the scientific nature of each hand and whatnot. That's not what interests people, and that's not what makes people want to tune in and watch. It has to be a form of entertainment. If you want to go and study poker, yes, poker content is great for doing that, and there's some streamers that do it brilliantly where you can follow what they're doing or whatever. But ultimately, if you're tuning in to watch a big event, you want to be entertained.
Yeah.
That's what you want. If you're going to sit and give up hours of your time, you want to be entertained. It's interesting talking about the slot streamers. A lot of them are regularly asked, do you play poker? And most of them will say, well, no, because it's a bit slow and it's a bit boring to watch. So no, don't really bother with that. It's not what people will want to tune in and watch. So it's why most people spend a lot of time watching football. And I know Stu's out there, so this will make him kick off. But it's why people will tune in and watch a 90-minute football match rather than a 5-day test match cricket, game. It's people don't want to, aren't going to sit and spend 5 days, watching something pan out. They want the action and they want a result. That's ideally what they want to see.
And if you look at gaming and betting and all of that stuff, I mean, product development these days are all about how can we make it simpler and faster, and because inevitably that's what today's audience wants. There's a lot of stuff competing for their time, and it's as easy to go and watch Squid Game as it is to play some betting. So betting is competing with that for value.
And it's very difficult for APAT because we've always, driven as hard as we can to get value for players, and we want to have good tournaments that they don't feel like you're just gambling. You can actually play some poker, and it's this, and we want to push the skill element to the fore for people. But at the same time, there is a reality that who's going to start a poker tournament at 7 at night that's going on till 3 in the morning on a Tuesday night? As an amateur poker player that only wants to pay for $5 or $10 or $20, it's just not sensible. So it's trying to find that balance within what you're doing for people. It's a difficult one to do, a difficult balance to get right and not just for us, but for any poker providers in what they're doing. It's finding that balance for how much time people are prepared to give. And as you say, you're competing against online gaming, Netflix, any other online YouTube, sat and watching you can spend hours on YouTube, can't you, down a rabbit hole before you know it, and wonder quite what you've been doing with your time.
But there's also a ton of really good stuff on there. Do you know? So it's like, whether you're looking for just rubbish or really great stuff, there's a lot of things out there that will compete with poker for your time, and therefore the games have to, I think, change in an appropriate way.
I think that's very much it. I mean, I don't like some of the some of the variants that some of the sites throw out there and try and for the sake of trying to do it, but I still think we're yet to have a real game changer in poker, and maybe there never will be, and it isn't something that's actually out there. But to see somebody that actually has really kind of nails that thing of it's still skill, but you can actually play it in a certain time, and that will come along at some point.
I think if you think, I mean, where would poker be without fast fold poker, for example? How many players play, particularly smaller players, play fast fold recreational poker?
Oh,
hello.
Oh, King 4 for Martin, and Richard Rowland-Smith has the 10s, and Martin flops the flush.
Wow.
And we're going to lose Rudders in 4th place. 10 tens against king 4 and flops the first. Martin is foot to the floor here. He's all in again. Chip leader and doesn't look like he's hanging about. So we lose rudders in 4th. That's a little bit of a brutal hand to
unlucky rudders
to depart on. Yeah,
Michael's going to have to get them in very, very quickly here, I suspect.
Yeah, I think so. It is looking that way. The thing is, this is now where it really does kind of step in on an ICM, and we've had players. I mean, you'll have remember this is one of the little golden nuggets that we've had a number of players when we've had pros on the show talk about is this exact situation here where Martin doesn't actually want to be going after Michael.
Yeah,
he wants to be keeping Michael in the game and really hammering Ian to get to a situation where he's got 2 short stacks that he's up against, and he's not actually up against one half decent stack when they're in a heads up situation. So it's that kind of that concept of pummeling the middle player now as chip leader. But it looks like Martin's actually he's not really bothered who it is. He's just being quite aggressive and raising up here and getting involved. As Michael does get his chips in, Ian's going to call. Martin might come along here for the 100. Oh, he's gone all in. He's giving protection to Michael here.
That's an interesting play.
It's out of the way. It's ace king for Martin, king 8 for Michael. Michael's going to need an 8. It's only going to be an 8, and he doesn't get it. And so Michael departs. I mean, Martin, I suppose he didn't want to just see a flop with the ace king. I'd rather get it in, but I'm not sure whether that's quite the right play against Ian there.
I suppose Leigh, he was maybe a little afraid of Ian pulling ahead on a flop, but I mean, he could have folded, right? He could have folded out. I think you're right. I mean, it was a strange play with.
There really wasn't a need to actually go all in there. Ultimately, because of how short stack Michael was, even if Ian had won the hand against Michael, it wouldn't have made a massive difference to the heads up situation. So he would have been better off slow playing that. And obviously he didn't hit anywhere with his ace king, but it was good. So I suppose it could have ended up working out better. But I think in that situation, he'd have been better off actually just calling, seeing a flop and looking to try and play a kind of a control pot against Ian. But we are heads up anyway. Martin Mulso from Austria against Ian Kendall from the UK. Prize pool now. So they're both guaranteed $436, but it is $676 up top. So they're playing for about $240 here, Des. Nice. First and second. So nice little payout for which ever of the two takes this. The PLO is down to 6 players at the moment, so we'll as soon as this heads up concludes, we will jump across to that, because we know there's nothing you all like more than watching Des and I try and commentate on PLO on a Sunday night. It's always entertaining. And the turbo knockout, just to give you an update on that, we're down to 14 players. It's paying top 11 tonight, so so we're getting close to the money in that one. So Steve Parrish is chip leader in that one. So it's all good indeed. So have you watched Squid Game yet? Then, Des, did you say? Have you
saw the rest of it? Really enjoyed it. Really enjoyed it. I'm just blown away by the numbers on it. They tell me it's Netflix's biggest series. Wow.
I think the PR for it got it to that. I'm not quite sure whether it deserves that for the content. It's watchable and enjoyable, but it's hardly groundbreaking in
groundbreaking
what they've done. Yeah, but it's well done. Well done, though.
It doesn't need to be groundbreaking to be a big thing. I thought it was pretty enjoyable.
No, it was well done. I was chatting to Jen's 15-year-old niece about it today, and she said, "Oh yeah, I love it. And I said, "Oh well, it was all right." She said she's looked at me as if like, "What do you mean it was all right?" I said, "Well, it's sort of been done before, isn't it?" And of course, to that generation, she's like, "What are you talking about?" Just like, what are you talking about? So, so when you then kind of start going back, well, you had, do you remember the Arnold Schwarzenegger film? No, you won't. Of course you won't. Yeah. So where am I even going with any of this? But so for a generation, I guess it was good, but it's a PR thing, isn't it? I mean, it came out of absolutely nowhere and picked up traction very, very quickly. And then it became the thing where everyone's talking about it, and everyone who's not talking about it wants to know, well, why is everyone else talking about it? And even Jen said, she said, all her team at work were talking about it. And she said, well, do I need to watch this thing? And and it was on Gogglebox.
Leigh,
it was on.
But that only works as a strategy if people are saying great things about it, right? If the first wave of people who watched it thought it was average, they wouldn't be talking about it. They really wouldn't.
But it only needs the first wave to do it. It can then get the negatives afterwards. But if the first wave is, this is amazing, which is what it got, but I'm not quite sure who that first wave were, but it got it somehow. However they managed to do it, I don't quite know. But yeah, it's no harm done there. Yeah,
I watched a video on YouTube.
Got an all in the call. It's King Jack at ace 10. It's the ace 10 at risk, but the ace 10 is ahead. If it's not a king or a jack, a king on
and
the
it's a
river,
heart.
but it's a heart.
Wow.
So Ian does get the double up. Saw the king and he wasn't going to like the king, but because it was a heart, brought the fourth heart on the board, and so Ian gets a double up, and they're not too far off being level now. So good heads up this.
Oh, very good. So I was watching a video on YouTube which had tons of spoilers in it, so don't watch it if you're intending to watch the Squid Game. But it showed how the key plot, right at the end, was actually evident throughout.
Yeah, all the little Easter eggs.
There were tons of little Easter eggs. It was all there if you could.
Paying attention. If you've properly been watching the detail, you would have seen. Yeah, you would have seen. I picked up on a couple of them whilst watching it. I think with a lot of these things, it's very difficult. I don't know what you're like. I'm quite not cynical with these shows, but you kind of know that when they're talking about a good show and everyone's kind of going, oh wow, you're kind of like, okay, so there's a twist, and sometimes there might be a double twist in there, so you're kind of already expecting the twist and you're just waiting to see what it. And Jen hates me for it because. And I've got quite good now is I don't say anything. I just sit quietly. But I used to be a little bit like, oh well, that's going to be that. And when it is, she's kind of, oh, for goodness sake, could you just what you're bothering me for? It happened. I had one this afternoon. I couldn't help myself this afternoon. But that's so we watched this afternoon. So last week, I told you we watched a program on Amazon Prime called Ice. Yeah, okay. About the freezing coming down, and we had the whole discussion about where you'd go and all that kind of. Well, 8 years before that, there was another series called Flood. So we watched that this afternoon. Two parts. It was actually about 3 hours long in total, but good cast. Robert Carlyle, David Suchet.
I saw that. We're London Floods, right?
Yeah, it was a lot. Yeah, long.
That was a nice little.
But there's a bit at the end, and I mean, it's not a spoiler when I say it, but somebody's got to go and open up the Thames barrier, and who's going to do it? And I just sat there and go, well, whilst they're busy arguing about it, his dad's going to go and do it. And of course, lo and behold, that's what happened. And Jen was looking at me like as if like, oh, really? I said, well, it's glaringly obvious, wasn't it? It's badly scripted. I mean, for goodness sake, it's that's the way it is. But yeah, so you get it where these things you're looking for the twists now, and you kind of know they're going to do. They're going to do something. What are they going to do? And always a really well written one is. Well, yeah, you can't see it coming, but it's clever. It's done in a way as they're all in and again at a call, and it's a double up again for Ian. So he's now taken the chip lead. This has really swung the other way.
Wow, it has. That's a good chip lead as well.
Yeah, it is. So you're kind of like you like a good twist on it without it being so ridiculously out. You said when you watched the submarine whodunit, you said it got a bit silly. Vigil got a bit silly at the end for you.
I always have this thing about the minute the plot gets a bit lazy or the writers get a bit lazy and they start doing stuff that makes no sense. It just doesn't add up. Other than it gets you from A to B in the show, I begin to disengage a bit then because there's so many good shows have gone before where that hasn't been necessary, and with Vigil. I really enjoyed the first two episodes, and then I felt, it just going downhill a bit quickly, really.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah,
But I
it's
appreciate that in
difficult.
six episodes, they've got to start, you know, knitting things together, and they've got to,
Yeah, but
you know, of
it is a difficult thing to do.
course it is.
I guess I mean it's interesting when we talked to say like when we talked to Rob last night, and you talk about the writing, and obviously we've spoken about whether the Steve Ash trilogy, you know, could it be a film, could it be a TV series, and I think his view last night was he felt it had a kind of a 6 episode limited series kind of feel to it, so maybe
Yeah,
it could be a 6 hour thing, something like that, and that would work quite well. But it's the appreciation, I guess, of how much time and effort even, you know, some Rob puts into his storylines, and the arc of the story, and the individual characters backstories. And we had on
Andy
the chap
Watson,
that
right?
won, Andy Watson, that won the competition as Shirley Cole did in the second book, and Andy was saying, you know, he was having a chat to Rob, and it was all a bit, well, I'll leave you to it, do whatever you want to do. But then they started chatting, and he couldn't believe how much of the content of just a chat with Rob ended up in the book, in the kind of just giving the backstory to the character. And I guess when you're writing these type of things, you have to do that for everything. And if
Of
you've got
course, yeah.
something complex, like as complex as like a Line of Duty, where you've got story arcs running through all, was it 6 or 7 seasons of that thing, you know, it's just how on earth you keep all that together. I have no
Yeah,
idea.
yeah. I
It's,
think
you know,
that's
phenomenal.
a classic idea. I think Line of Duty, you know, had a ton of success for all of the right reasons, but I think there was a lot of disappointment with the, you know, the finalization of the last series in terms of the who was the who done it, right? And
Yeah.
because just from a pure credibility point of view, there wasn't anything in that character to suggest that he had the wherewithal to be doing all of the stuff that needed to be doing.
No.
And that's when I tend to go, that's a bit lazy, that they've just looked
Yeah,
for
and you
a
kind of wonder, well, will it come back?
spectacular
And
end
is it just
result.
a,
And
yeah? Is it just a bit of a spill, and it'll come back, and it'll be something different? But
maybe, maybe.
even the best things. I mean, let's think about in the last couple of years, what has been probably the biggest show
That's Game of Thrones,
on
right?
TV's Game of Thrones, and
Yeah.
you got to the final, you know, the final season of that, and the final couple of episodes, and even halfway through the final season, there were already kind of murmurs of, this isn't feeling good. Where's this
Yeah.
going? How's
I
this going
mean,
to end up? And then there was a lot of disappointment with how that concluded, and that was obviously a huge, big, you
yeah.
know, I mean, full on thing. Yeah.
I see. So, I mean, for what it was worth, I wasn't particularly disappointed with how that finished. But
No,
then
I quite enjoyed it.
I
Yeah.
didn't read the books, right? So I think a lot of that disappointment came from the people who did read the books, and through reading the books, you know, and that's a hell of an investment in time reading those books. You know, you get characters that you get tied into, and you really want to know what their arc is. And of course, in the final season of one of these things, it's nearly impossible to tie up all of the arcs of all of the characters. And I think that created a lot of dissatisfaction. I would be sympathetic to that. But
And of
just
course,
as
and
a
now
viewer,
they're going back. They're going back.
yeah,
300 years or something like that. I think that's where they're going
Targaryens,
with this.
yeah.
Yeah. And
I'm
that's
not
which,
sure. I mean, I'm not feeling a warm spot for that. I mean, I'll watch
but
it, the first one, and see what
weirdly, yeah,
happens.
weirdly, Des, I think you'll find although it's tied, and you're going to have similar places and characters and names. The reality of it, it'll be a standalone. It'll be a completely standalone thing, which I think will hold its
Yeah.
own for what it is. And
Yeah, quite probably.
if you enjoy that type of TV and
Yeah.
that type of series, ultimately you'll sit. It's similar, I guess, to the to Star Wars is, I guess, is the perfect, you know, scenario with that, where, you know, you have fans that are, well, what do we think of the, you know, when they do spin-offs of this, and what did you make of the Mandalorian and all this kind of, you know, and some people are like, well, no, it's not Star Wars, it's not, but it's like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
it kind of is,
Yeah.
and whatever. The PLO was absolutely flown here. I was hoping we were going to be able to jump to that once this
Really?
heads up
Wow.
finished, but the young whippersnapper that is Brendan Byrne has just, I was
Oh,
about to flick to the table to go, we've gone heads up in it, and he's
wow.
he was against Stephen Grocott, and who cheekily put in the chat, because he was significantly the short stack against Brendan, that saying, should we do a chop? And Brendan won the next hand, so that's over.
I guess that's a no.
So Brendan's picked up the win in that one. So well done to him. Which means we'll be, once this heads up finishes, we'll be looking at jumping across to the turbo knockout to watch that one come to a conclusion instead.
Well, Tony,
I
listen,
think it's going
Tony's
to be.
been in the chat box, Leigh, so sick to bubble both mains tonight. He was looking for his third week at the top. So unlucky, Tony.
Yeah, I think the reality of it is because I don't think Tony's picked up any points tonight, which means Matty is certainly going to stay ahead of him. Whether Matty gets overtaken by somebody else as well, we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, Tony finished 7th in the PLO and 14th in the No Limit Hold'em. Yeah, absolutely bubbled both of them, which is very unfortunate. So maybe the reality of it is he is the second best player in Ilfracombe, and that is the truth.
I thought you were going to say something like he's had run good up to this, and you got to expect from time to time a little bit of run bad.
We call it it's what's known as variance, Tony. That's how it works. Yeah, it's okay. We're safely accruing your tickets in the APAT vault. So we're just turning them into Bitcoin for you. So they'll be worth significantly more or less once we've done that. We'll have to see.
Well, Yanni's come in and said, Tony, look, you've won the last 2 weeks. There's your luck. Brendan is in there as well with all sorts of love hearts in his eyes and what have you. Delighted with his win.
Yeah, very nice. So Brendan picked up $393 for his win in the PLO tonight, which will have been for a $33 buy-in, I'm guessing. So that's superb, isn't it? Over 10 times the return for him, which is very nice in that tournament. Cannot complain with that at all. It'll certainly get him into a few more APAT tournaments for next week, I reckon. Should do all right for that. Although I don't know whether Brendan's obviously sometimes we do see Brendan he'll sometimes deal just with actually the guys are all in again with Martin with the chip lead now 8-10 against King Jack. It's going to need to be a king or a jack for Ian, and there's the jack.
Wow.
And the 9 on the river means they chop it.
Wow.
With a straight 7 to the jack. So Ian had gone ahead. Yeah, but I didn't know whether Brendan was still dealing or whether we decided to knock that on the head. Interested to know whether he considered getting back and doing that for a double. I know he quite enjoyed it. Although not everybody would agree with his dealing. I do remember I think it was the Goliath in Coventry where he was dealing when he knocked Paul Haycock got knocked out of the Goliath, and Paul wasn't very complimentary of Brendan's dealing that day at all.
There you go.
Although I'm sure it had nothing to do with him.
So is Brendan, and he is indeed working it.
Yeah, excellent. Well, assuming, say, fingers crossed, it does go ahead, because ultimately, if they've organised dealers and everything else, that's a lot of people that have made a commitment to the IPO. So fingers crossed, restrictions are in a way where they can actually get some poker going. I think it would be great to see that for players, dealers, and Nick and all of the team to see that happen. Nothing worse than that.
Yeah.
I was also talking to Tom, and Nivon over in Malta is already making plans for dates for next year, for a tournament in May and also a tournament in the autumn next year. So it's nice to see a lot of the venues and organisations that we work with and have worked with over the past decade and a half starting to get things up and running. DCD's been rammed every night so far that they've been open. So things are certainly heading in the right direction.
No, absolutely, which is great to see. I think within the gaming industry as well, or the gambling industry, Leigh, none of the big events have taken place since COVID came to be. As we see what's happening here, but I think ICE in early February in London, I think is likely to be the first big one. So I can see some of the smaller ones are coming around, and sort of people locally are going to them within that country. As we said in relation to poker, but none of the international travelers, or fewer of the international travelers, are going. But I think if we manage to get through December without there being any major spikes in anything, then I think everybody will be fully committed to getting back.
Well, I was really pleased that actually the US ended up deciding the 8th of November, not from a poker point of view, but my So I think I mentioned on the show that I went to my brother got married again in the summer, and we went to Ilfracombe for their sten after the wedding, because it all got messed around a couple of weeks ago, and they booked up for a bit of a honeymoon break, the two of them going over to Florida in November. And they booked kind of late November, and this has got shunted about all over the place. But of course, I'd messaged him on the back of a few poker players telling me that they'd had flights cancelled for Vegas for the early part of November, like the 3rd and 4th. I said, rumor has it that they're going to hold this off until after Thanksgiving, so something like the 25th. And he said, yeah, it's not looking great, is it? And then I messaged him the other day, said, I think it's going to be the 8th. And he was like, yeah, it looks good. So they're going to get to go and do that trip, which means they're both super excited about getting to just go over there and do that for a week. Obviously, you've got to jump through the hoops that you've got to still jump through with testing and all that thing. I don't know whether anyone saw our very own Tom Brady's post about the IPO, where it was quite amusing. He kind of listed so you'll need to do this, and you need to do this, and you need to do this to get into Ireland. But if you're all then thinking that's great once you've done that, no, because then to return to the UK, you need to do this and need to do this and need to do, and you're like, and you wonder why a lot of people have just gone, oh, can't be bothered with that. That just feels like too much.
And I must admit, I got away for a week in August. We did it in the UK, and it was great. It was lovely. Yeah, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I think there's a realization that that's what people are still thinking. Well, actually, it's just not worth the kind of the hassle of it all. Although some places are okay. As I think I've mentioned before on the show. I've got a client of mine that's been out to Greece about 3 or 4 times during the summer, and he said, it was a doddle. You just do your tests, and you put your mask on, and you get through the airport, and you get the other end, and it's fine, and away to go. It's difficult when you book these things, as my sister-in-law was saying, because they do a weekly vlog, kind of a Disney, it's all sorts of stuff. I think Ian Witt and his other half do a similar thing. People will know Ian from APAT events. There's a lot of people out there do the kind of the Florida Disney vlogs and that type of thing. And they were saying, and she was saying, obviously she's just super nervous now that she's got to do tests before they go, and it's that thing of the 10 days before you're due to fly, you basically want to bubble wrap yourself up and not come in contact with anybody, because the last thing you'd want to do, and it's I don't know how you're finding things, Des, but I'm certainly seeing in the past couple of weeks, maybe last month, I'm hearing of a lot more people testing positive than I ever have done before.
And
not getting it in a serious way, but and you're thinking, well, how are they picking it up? Because they're not going into the office and they're not doing this, but it's a lot more prevalent, and there's a lot more colds and that kind of flu-y season happening, and people are just back at work, and schools are all open, and there feels to be a lot more of it about.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, certainly a month ago, I was hearing a lot of, such and such has it, and somebody else has it, and this, that, and the other. It was just it was all over the place. Haven't heard as much, in the last week or two, and that might be because, it's not news today. If you get it, you get it.
I think Jen said I think she said that the numbers today were twice as many new cases as last Sunday.
Oh, wow.
I think.
Bloody hell.
Which is, I know these things can go up and down, and there's no huge science to when exactly the numbers are, but it's a strange one, and not all the schools are testing anymore, and some of them have kind of stopped doing testing, whereas they used to be testing the kids once or twice a week, and that's not happening necessarily everywhere now. But as we keep saying on the show, it's something which we're gonna all have to live with for a good while. And so at some point you make that decision whether you want to travel and go through the hoops you need to go through to go on holiday, or to take a trip to Vegas, or whatever it is you fancy doing. At some point, that's going to be our I think we're looking at Vegas for next summer for the World Series. There's a few celebrations I think are going to be going on around there. Stu Oliver will have a 50th. And I know Phil TC is still trying to celebrate, still trying to celebrate his 50th, and Anna's 21st. So lots of reasons to try and get out to Vegas maybe next summer. And I guess at that point you'll yeah, you just take it for what it is, and say do what you need to do. Well, I think everyone's will be used to the tests, and we'll have all had booster vaccines by then, I guess, and whatnot. Jen's sister-in-law works for the NHS. She's a nurse up in Yorkshire. She had her booster on Thursday night, I think it was, and she said she really felt bad on Friday. The side effects were the worst of the 3 that she's had on Friday. But I said, well, is it anything different you have? And she said, no, it's the same. Yeah, the same concoction that you get for your first and your second one. It's just, you know, so it's there is obviously the view, and I'm guessing that's going to be rolled out to a lot of, certainly I guess certain older age groups in the coming month or so. So yeah, it's something we're going to have to live with, like people that have the flu jab. I mean, do you have a flu jab every year or not?
No.
I've only ever had it once, and that was because the company I work for paid for it for everybody to have it. So you're kind of like, well,
generally, unless I'm told that I need to have something, and that's going to be told to me fairly strongly, I'm not a great person for going in and getting these things done.
Oh, it's over. All in the call. Both of them had kings, and there was a king on the board, and I think the jack kicker played against the 4 kicker for Ian. So Martin Mulso ends up winning that one, and I will bring up see where we're at with the turbo. Turbo's got 10 players left, so I'll bring up a table on that. There we go, and switch that across to that lobby. There we go. There we go. So we've got a bit more poker action going up. Normally we're not, we're certainly less than 10 normally by the time we jump to this, but very well done to Martin Mulso from Austria. He picks up the win in the No Limit Hold'em main event tonight. $676 for the win there. Ian Kendall from the UK, second for $436, and Michael Riley was third for $300. And the very unfortunate Richard Rudling Smith, who horribly had his tens busted against the flopped flush of the eventual winner. So at least he put those chips to good use and scooped a win there. So the final tournament of the night started at 9 o'clock. It's the Turbo Knockout. 72 runners in that. We were paying top 11. We're down to 10. So we're already in the money now. And obviously some people will have already picked up bounties as well. Top prize tonight, well, it's the same as it always is with the knockouts. Des, the first and second get the same price pretty much from the prize pool, which is $82, and then obviously they get that topped up with whatever they've got in bounties. Currently Steve Parrish is chip leader in this. He's already picked up $27 worth of bounties already. So he's going to do it. Scott Ryan is actually fourth. He's already picked up $25 as well with the bounties. So it's amazing how much you can pick up from these bounties in this particular tournament. Very popular, these progressive knockouts these days. Massively popular on Party Poker. There's some people, this is all they'll play. The knockout tournaments. So well worth it if you can get involved in that. But we will follow this down. So at the moment, they're just, I'm guessing, I think they might be hand for hand because they're down to 10. So before we play down to a final table.
You don't have the other table set up, Leigh, do you?
Yes, I do.
You able to tell us who's on it?
Yeah, I do. Bear with me a second and I can ping that across as well.
We've got Aaron is on there. Yeah,
there you go. So, so this is who we've got. Heribert, who people might recognize. Ipfelkoffer, he's from Germany. He's a regular player with APAT. He's second in chips at the moment. Just meanwhile, back on the first table, we've got an all in a call. It's King Queen against Jack 10, and it's going to be Brian that picks up the win there and doubles up through Scott Ryan. So Scott is now one of the shorter stacks. I'm looking, I think Aaron might end up being, let's go back to the other table because I think Aaron might end up being all in here. Blinds are currently 12,500 and 25,000. Aaron's only got 46,000 behind, and he's in a four-way pot here. So
slightly onerous position.
Yeah, he's whether he's looking to hang on. Meanwhile, on the other table, Scott Ryan has just doubled back up, having doubled up Brian. He's just now doubled up through Ulrich. So chips are certainly flying all over the place here. It's always fairly quick and lively, this particular tournament. Obviously, they're after each other's bounties, and it's a turbo as well, so it always makes it an interesting end on a Sunday night. Jared looks like he's going to pick up that particular one, and we do lose. We do unfortunately lose Aaron in 10th place. I'm just looking. Actually, it's actually 7. I think this is 7-handed actually. So we'll be playing down. I think it'll play down to 8 on a final table. So we'll have a few more to go before we hit.
Okay. I can't believe you haven't got your table set up with APAT branding.
Oh, is it switched off? Is it? Oh, it does for some reason. It does sometimes do that. I don't know why. I can very quickly.
Don't worry about it. We'll get it next time.
I can very quickly fix that. Actually, I think it forces the bounty hunter in the middle because it's got APAT around the top.
Oh yeah, so I've just brought it up on my screen. It's there on my screen, but I wouldn't worry about it mid broadcast.
No, I've just switched it, but for some reason it hasn't.
Didn't happen for you.
It doesn't. I've switched it to APAT, and it's showing as APAT, but when I save the changes, it's not. It's not doing it.
Need to worry more. Need to worry.
I don't know why, but it does sometimes do that. It is set to APAT, and for some reason it. I think when it does an update, it defaults back. I think so. That's often the case.
What have you made of the Newcastle takeover, Leigh?
Well, I mean, it is what it is. It seems to be what all the Newcastle fans have wanted. Obviously, there's going to be those people that are up in arms over the fact that it's Saudi Arabia and their record with everything else and everything non-football related. But ultimately, it's not hugely different from a number of other owners of football clubs have come in, and it's Newcastle's turn, I guess, to potentially have some income. I think it's going to shake up the Premier League. I really do. I think it's going to be another player at that top table, vying for the top spots. I think Mike Ashley had wanted to get out of the club for a good while, but was going to hold on until he got what he felt was a fair value for what he'd done. Well, now fans are never going to like him, but actually he ran a fairly profitable club for a period of time. Yes, he wasn't investing greatly, but actually, okay, they had 2 relegations, but promotions to follow on that. And what more could they want? Now, of course, expectation levels are going to be, well, we need to be getting in the Champions League in the next 2 or 3 years if we're going to spend. If they're going to spend the money, they're going to do it. But it won't happen
today, Leigh. It won't happen overnight, will it?
No, it won't happen overnight. But they'll go through the same process, Des, that Man City did. It'll be key on who they next get in as the next manager. But let's not be under any illusions that whoever they get in as their next manager is not going to win them the Premier League. That's not what they're going to be there to do. They're going to be there to build a spine of a team, start getting players to want to join the club that perhaps wouldn't have considered Newcastle as an option, a destination for them. Crikey, just on the other table, crazy all in hand, Queens and Ace King, and 3-way all in, and we don't lose anybody. You just saw the cards flash up there as I just saw it. So it's going to take time, as it did at Man City. They bought the club, and then Robinho was the first big rushed signing, and then gradually over time there was a churn of players as more and more players, and eventually they got the right key players in that were going to offer longevity to the club and stability. And then with that then comes the star names, and then you get the real star name managers, and inevitably trophies will follow. It won't happen immediately, but I don't think anyone should be under any illusion that Newcastle are going to be big players in English football in the foreseeable future. It's just inevitable. It's going to be another team, say, dining at the top table. That is very much the way it's going to be. Another 3-way all in here. Scott is obviously super low, but he's hit 2 pair. And two pair is going to see a triple up for him. And again, we don't bust anyone. Ulrich picks up the side pot, but with
Hell of a lot
absolute
going on there.
fumes. Yeah, with absolute fumes, unfortunately. I mean, what's your take on it as a Liverpool fan? Does it kind of concern you as to what Liverpool might do in the future on
No,
the
not
basis
at
that you're going
all.
to have another huge player with big
Not at
money
all.
to spend?
No, good for them. I mean, you know, I've always liked Newcastle. I think they've got massively passionate fans. They've got a big old stadium. You know, I think their positioning has been as an exciting club. They haven't fulfilled any of that promise for quite some time. But I think it's not as simple as having the cash. You need a lot of luck in other areas to make it work. I mean, for example, United have spent over $1 billion in the last several years and haven't really succeeded. So it's not so much about the money. At the end of the day, you can only spend so much money. I think there's a lot of other stuff that is required as well.
I mean, the difficulty for Newcastle is who, if the decision is that Steve Bruce needs to step aside because there's a lot of ill feeling between him and the fan base, and it's time for a clean sweep and go again.
Look at this.
Aces versus threes versus queens. Crikey, there is some cards hitting here. And actually, Steve Parish got out of the way, having put 94,000 into the pot there.
Good call.
Yeah, and we're going to bust two players there. Brian's going to knock out both players,
Wow.
and we are going to be on a final table, which will just require a quick little bit of a reset once that flashes up. So bear with me for 1 second whilst I wait for that to appear. They're just waiting for a hand to finish on the other table, so it won't be a moment. They probably all just realized that they're all of a sudden all on the final table. Yeah, so I think it's going to be key who they get in as a manager, and it's the same problem that I guess Man United fans might have at the moment. And I've said this on this show when we talk about has Ollie done as much as he can and whatever, and I personally feel that's the case, but the reality of it is who's out there that you would well, you would replace him with at the moment, and the Newcastle have exactly that same problem of who is available that's going to want to do that job, and with the proviso that they could only be in the job for 2 or 3 years, and
stepping stone,
and be gone. As final tables up, Des. So
well, I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, we got a hand for straight away. Sorry,
look at that.
Cassio's got king. Aces, and Peter's got king 7, and hits a
king
on the river.
There's a king.
Whoa, on the river, and he's going to get a double up.
Wow,
that's what you want at the start of the final table. Gives a little wow emoji in the chat. And so we are 7-handed now. The guys are all guaranteed. What's minimum cash here now for them? It's about $15 at the moment, but obviously they've got bounties on top of that as well.
Yeah, so, 1571.
Yeah.
Leigh, I thought it was really funny today. This will amuse you as well, I'm sure. But Jose Mourinho came out today with his talk of having an emotional attachment to Newcastle.
Oh, is he really?
An emotional attachment because of his relationship with Bobby Robson and what have you. But yeah, he used those words. I mean, that's insane, right?
It would he want to go there and start a project? I mean, I suppose he's one of the few managers that arguably, if he was given that budget, he potentially could.
Oh, he has the capability to spend it for sure.
To spend, but not just to spend it, but to spend it and then win them something. He's one of the few managers that you would say would have that. The reality of it is most others are going in to do a building project, whereas he would have the ability. And of course, somebody like Jose has the potential to attract players that would go, I'll come to the club to play for him. So
I don't think there's too many.
I don't see that. I can't see it. I don't see it happening.
Don't think there's too many among the Newcastle fans who would want to stand and watch his style of play.
No, exactly. They're wanting. They want a Kevin Keegan style. Let's go. We're going to go at this. But I mean, ultimately, that won't win them things.
Well, it can
that approach. Not until they've got the caliber of player to do it. Yeah. It won't. That's not going to win them anything.
But I think they'll be prepared to wait to win things if the direction that they're taking is the direction that they're happy with. I think to win things and play horrible football, it's there's not a huge amount of satisfaction in that. It's very short term.
No, completely. I completely agree. I mean, ultimately, everybody wants. Yeah, there's nothing more frustrating than watching your team play and kind of thinking, well,
Yeah.
what? It's just,
I mean,
it's not enjoyable to watch. Yeah.
Klopp didn't win anything in 2016, 2017, 2018. Got to a European final, 2 European finals in that time, and then won a European Cup in 2019, then won the league in 2020 effectively. So, but there wasn't an unhappy Liverpool fan there that he didn't win anything for his first 3.5
No.
years.
As Herabert's all in with
Oh,
King
look at
Queen
that.
against Jared's 8s, and 8's going to see Jared with a double up.
It
I mean,
is
I think
done.
the reality, I mean, Klopp, Liverpool's situation is a perfect example. Is that it's yes, it took 3 years, and there's not a Liverpool fan that won't tell you had some seriously bad misses in the transfer market during that time with players that just didn't work, or they paid money for them, it just didn't work. But eventually you got that right mix, and you got the couple of big signings that you needed at the back, in a goalkeeper and a centre back, and you've beautifully gelled together a front line that is just incredible, for not a huge amount of money, really, in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
And it's worked well. You actually haven't got the strongest depth of squad in the top teams by any stretch, but the way the team played against Watford on the weekend was incredible and a joy to watch. You roll that on to then watching United play against Leicester, with arguably a squad of players on a par with Liverpool's squad of players on a player by player basis, but not looking like they've ever played together as a team, or not playing in a with a tactics or a strategy of how to win a game and how to go about winning a game. And it's like chalk and cheese. It's incredible to see, and that's where I think Ollie's situation, he finds himself in, is that the question that everyone's asking is, well, if you've got that squad of players, how are you not at least looking like a decent? Yeah, you can have off days. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Leicester can fall past the best of them. Don't get me wrong. Leicester are a quality side, and Brendan Rodgers is a really, really good manager. But United, for now a month or so, funnily enough, since probably the second week after Ronaldo turned up, you had the big, he's here and he's scoring goals, and then all of a sudden they've forgotten how to play football. And you can't do that as a Man United team. It's just not acceptable. As simple as that. It's not about the money that's being spent. It's about you understand if the you have to just say we're having a bit unlucky with some games or a few injury worries, but they're not. There's none of that at all. You just got big name players not turning up. Tactically, it just looks wrong. Not first to the ball, not winning your 50-50 duels. Or, I mean, you look at the statistics, Des, and I've delved quite a lot into the numbers of United in the past month or so, not creating big chances. When we do create big chances, not taking big chances. And you look at the squad and you go, you can't afford to do that.
I don't know if you watched any of the match of the day last night.
I chose not to watch match of the day last night.
They did some analysis on the United games they do after every game, and I think United game was the lead game, so it got probably 5 or 6 minutes, and they showed several instances of a lack of intensity. So Ronaldo at the top of the Christmas tree, just Fernandes, wonderful players, but they're not chasing, they're not showing intensity, they're not harrying, doing any of that stuff. So there's no pressing effectively, and it's really hard to win when you're not pressing in the Premier League today.
Pogba for France versus Pogba for Man United is, I mean, I'd love somebody to explain to me quite why, because it doesn't matter whether we play him further up the pitch on the left, or for France, he's playing in a holding kind of central midfield role with the lad that, funny, if we're interested in buying, apparently from I think he's at Monaco at the moment. I wouldn't even be able to pronounce his name if I could remember what his name was, but he's only broken into the team in the last year or so. So he's playing effectively alongside him at the centre of the park for France, and looks Rolls Royce. Absolutely, turns it on, puts a United shirt on, and I don't know whether it's he can't be bothered or doesn't get up for the game or what it is, but just doesn't look interested. Now, because he's running down his contract and he's, his agent's out saying this, that, and the other, there is a kind of bit of it where you just go, well, what's the, why are you playing him if he's not going to, you'd rather have players that actually want to play for the team and actually do something. And however good and world class a player is, if you're not actually going to put the effort in, have that intensity, as you say, Des, and make some effort, you might as well just have an under 21 in that's doing it. I know it's not Camavinga. He went to Real Madrid. That was who we were interested in the summer, but then he went to Real Madrid because he always, I think, was intent on Real Madrid. It is another lad, and I cannot for the life of me remember his name. I will dig it up now, but I'll make a mockery of pronouncing it anyway. Begins with a T. I know that for sure. So I'll find it now whilst we're watching the poker and chatting. But yeah, I don't get it, Des. I really don't. It's
because if you go back to 2016, Leigh, and if you looked at Liverpool in 2016 when Klopp took over, they were playing a 4-3-3. Intensity was the big watchword. It was all about rock and roll football, heavy metal football, intensity. So Liverpool's approach and strategy hasn't changed in any of the years. What has changed is the players they've been able to bring in to fill those spots in the team.
It's Aurelien Tchouameni. I'm going to go for Tchouameni. Tchouameni. Who's he's only a young guy, and he plays. I think he's playing for Monaco now. I think. I want to say yes, he is. He's playing for Monaco. 21-year-old. He's currently playing central midfield for France.
Wow.
Yeah, and really highly rated. Yeah. But that's who we're potentially supposed to be interested. But you kind of go well. So it doesn't matter where we play Pogba at the moment. He just doesn't seem to be bothered.
Yeah. And then he has the tenacity to come out on, on his interview yesterday, and talk about, I don't know why, but people aren't trying hard enough, and it isn't working. And honestly,
it's as if they want. But I come back to the same point as a United fan. Yes, I think Ollie is. Whether I don't think he's the right person to kind of get us. He's done an incredible job of sorting things out because it was a right mess. Don't say, and we'll always be grateful for that. If there genuinely was somebody out there at the moment that I thought would improve the squad and take us on, I'd definitely be saying, right, he's gone as just as Cassio's got aces again, and he's gonna get that through. But who is there? I don't think we want Conte. He's available.
Mancini?
Would I'm not sure. I don't think he would.
To go to Man United? Wouldn't he leave Italy? He might want to see out the World Cup, perhaps. But
I'm not sure whether he would at the moment. Yeah, but the problem is there's not a Guardiola or a Klopp or a Tuchel. There's a couple of potential ones in Germany maybe that could be tempted to take the job, but there's not that, there are. I mean, how many world-class managers would you say are out there? And I don't even put Jose in that category at the moment, because I think he's football's moved on, and I don't think he's quite with it at the moment. If he's managing Roma, I mean, that says a lot about about where he is. I mean, how many really world-class managers are Enrique, maybe, possibly. But a lot of these players, or ex-players, you're kind of taking a bit of a punt on. It's interesting. Newcastle are talking about potentially Lampard, and you're like,
oh no,
wow.
Crikey.
I mean, really, incredible that might be discussed. But I don't think there's the strength in depth of real world-class coaches out there at the moment that are proven that you go, well, yes, you give them the Man United job because they've proven they can do that. So you're kind of feeling like you're going to have to take a bit of a a bit of a punt on somebody. Well,
How would you?
we've kind of taken a punt on quite a few managers in the
Sure,
past,
but you've had
decade.
Louis van Gaal in there as well, so you've had a mix.
And
You've
he
had
couldn't,
Mourinho, you've had the best of it, some of the biggest names.
yeah, and none of them could seem to. I genuinely thought when Sir Alex left, the following manager, it was a poison chalice for whoever it was. I wish it hadn't have been Moyes, because I genuinely think Moyes, second one in after Sir Alex possibly would have had more of a run at it. He was in an unfortunate situation, and it wasn't going to happen. But the reality of it is we're now, we're now into the fourth manager down the line, and we're still not right. And we're 10 years, as good as 10 years down the line, and
It can be hard to get
still
back.
not right there.
Yeah, I mean, it can certainly be hard to get back on top of the horse after a period of time.
But it's the same for everyone, though, Des. I mean,
Yeah.
look at Arsenal. Perfect situation. Wenger out, and we want Wenger out. Well, okay, yeah, they got that.
How's that looking?
And you look at Tottenham. Well, Poch couldn't quite do it for us, so we're gonna move on, and and we'll get Jose in, and well, that didn't really work out. And no disrespect to who they've got in as coach now, who's done it, did a good job at Wolves, but reality is, would you say he's a world class coach that's gonna,
No.
potentially he might become that, but he's not. So they're taking a punt on somebody because they think that they should be a top four side. So
what about Brendan Rodgers? Would you have him?
Yes, I would. Yeah, I would. But again, I'm not convinced he necessarily would. I mean, there was a rumor, the story this week that he was potentially holding out for the Man City job. Potentially because Pep has made it clear that he's planning on seeing out this contract, and that's going to be that. As it's Kogan picks up the hand there, yeah. So so it's going to be changed around again then. I don't know, but even you look at the ones that are doing well. I mean, so everyone's raving about Tuchel, coming in and he turned things around for Chelsea. Well, he couldn't do it at PSG. Yeah, he was winning the French league, but I think you and I between us could probably win the French league with PSG. I have a feeling we'd do all right without too much of a bother. He couldn't win the Champions League with PSG with all that money they spent. I mean, we talk about how much United have spent and how much City have spent, how much potentially Newcastle could spend now, but actually, PSG. Yeah. I mean, to think PSG are in a situation where they're genuinely letting Mbappe's contract run down and he's going to go for free, at the end of the season. I mean, what on earth is that about?
They reputedly gave up 50 million euro.
Yeah,
last
it doesn't.
Summer.
It feels like something's gone on in the background there, and a deal's been done elsewhere. And of course, you makes you wonder with the owners now of a lot of the football clubs. You do wonder whether, well, actually, there's just things are done behind the scenes that you wouldn't even be aware of, and football players move between clubs for free because they've run their contracts down, and who knows what kind of what goes on. But it's a strange one that they paid all. What did they pay for Mbappe when they signed him? Was it was because they had the,
was it 190 million or something? I'm sure
he was the one that they took on, because they signed Neymar for like 200 million, wasn't it, or something like that, and then they couldn't sign Mbappe for the first year, so they had to do him on a loan for the first year.
Yeah,
but then they had a commitment to pay whatever 150 or whatever it was the following season, and then effectively they've basically depreciated that, written that off over the life of his contract, and he's going to go on a free. It seems absolutely nuts. But of course, we've got a similar situation with the Pogba. That's going to end up being a case. I personally think he's quite toxic for the club and has never done enough on a regular basis. And I'd be quite happy to see the back of him.
Yeah, Brendan is saying the same.
Whether we got a fee for him or not, I don't really mind. I'd have quite happily seen him go last summer. I think we've got a ready-made replacement in Donny van de Beek. Might need a bit of a reboot and a bit of a confidence to go. But if you gave him a proper run in the team, that's make or break for him. But I would do it tomorrow if it was me. If I knew Pogba definitely wasn't going to sign a contract, I would turn around and say to him, right, well, we'll do without you, because actually you're not doing anything on the pitch for us. So what's the point in playing you? We're not going to. I don't think we're going to sell him in January for a fee, which means he's basically going to go at the end of the year to whoever he wants to go to. So basically, we'll might as well pack his bags for him now and get on with it.
Of course, the challenge now is that as United continue their evolution, and they've got work still to do, clearly, be that a manager at some point in future, but certainly players in Jan, maybe summer, they are going to be competing with Newcastle now, as indeed will Liverpool, because we are definitely entering our cycle whereby we'll need to.
Well, your front line is going to have to. Yeah, I mean, you are in that situation where you're going to have to. Just as we've got Ace King versus Ace 3, it's the Ace King at risk. So it's looking good.
Oddly enough, if you look at Salah, Mane, and Firmino, they're almost the three top scorers in the country at the moment.
Yeah,
I mean, it's insane. It's
incredible.
Firmino is scoring every 44 minutes. He's playing 5 or 6 games. He's playing every 44 minutes.
The thing that I thought was most impressive about Liverpool's result yesterday was, I don't know whether you're aware of this, so I don't think Klopp mentioned it before the game, but you were playing at 12:30. Which is apparently it's bang out of order that you should be playing at 12:30. Unacceptable. And apparently, if you'd have been playing at 5:30, your 2 Brazilians would have been able to. I'm not quite sure how that works. That 5 hours genuinely makes a difference. But he was convinced that if it had been a 5:30 kickoff, then they'd have got through their quarantine or whatever and been able to. But boy, did he go on another rant on BT Sport on Saturday about that.
My mate Des started it.
Des Kelly.
He says you tried to have the game moved, didn't you? And then he went, but Watford weren't having it, and Klopp went, hold on, Watford, it's you. Like, that's where the problem is. It is.
But of course it isn't, because the reality of it is and Klopp knows that. And I said to you before, it's the thing about Klopp, and the thing that annoys me so much about Klopp is that he's got that little bit of Fergie about him. And he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows exactly what strings he's pulling at the right time with the media. Everybody likes him, but he, at the same time, he knows exactly what he's doing to deflect away. And of course, the team then go and absolutely romp to a well-deserved performance, and everyone looks and goes, so what was that all about? Really? What was the criticism?
Well, I think while we haven't had a bad recent run of 12:30 results, I think if you go back to previous seasons, we have had a bad run of 12:30 results. And I think that's got less to do with players coming back from international duty and much more to do with the fact that it's hard for any bunch of fans to be tanked up at 12:30 in the morning, and therefore the atmosphere drops. And we thrive on intensity and atmosphere, and I mean, look what happened last year.
But to be honest, Des, let's be brutally honest about this. That the current fixture scheduling, whereby you can have 3 South American qualifiers happening on a was it a Wednesday night into a Thursday morning?
Brazil played on Friday morning.
Yeah, Friday. That's Thursday into the Friday. That was
ludicrous.
It. Yeah, and then expect players to return to their clubs for a weekend. And it's not just in England, because actually that's happened everywhere. Is ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
and I think that the sooner I don't agree with everything that Arsene Wenger is put forward in the way of changes to what we're going to, but actually his idea of, let's not have these 3 autumn international breaks. Let's shunt them all together and have a month where they're all put together, and therefore they only have having to return to their clubs once at the end of that period. And it probably would actually only be a 3-week period. Get all of those games played in that 3-week period, and sometime towards the end of October, early November, and that would do away with a lot of these problems, because then it's done for the autumn.
Yeah, I think even if you... So I really like that idea, but I think even if you used the 3-week period after the leagues finish to run those international games, and then every other year, that's a tournament, that's a tournament. At least then it becomes part of the schedule. But it's a nonsense to have some of your best players miss games, through an international break. It's just, I mean, that isn't what international breaks are designed to do.
No, I mean, you had what, both Man City and Liverpool were without your goalkeepers. United were without Fred, which is obviously the reason we lost. And Cavani was back late as well for us. I think most of the clubs, I mean, even and in the Premier League these days, there's very few Premier League squads that haven't got a couple of South American players in their squad. That are playing at international level, even if it's not the big boys, if it's not Brazil, Argentina, and whatever.
Oh, here we go, Leigh.
We're already done. I think this is going to be it. If the fives hold, they don't know, and it's going to be a double up for Jared and against Brian. But we are heads up now. That's absolutely flown through super quick. But I'm going to be very close to being able to confirm who will be top of the table tonight at the end of this. But whether they change it or not for the good, I'm not completely sure they ever will, Des. It's but he does talk a little bit sense. I'm not convinced about the World Cup every 2 years thing. I don't think that's a goer. But at the same time, I don't like, I didn't think much of the kind of the Nations League thing. As I said to you, I think it was last week I was saying about, Wales have kind of already qualified for the playoffs via that, and they might improve their playoff position if they finish second in the group in the World Cup. Like, what is going on? I mean, just qualify for one tournament, and that should be all that matters. And I can't work out whether it's actually trying to just make sure that the big countries don't miss out, similarly to what they do with some of the league competitions and the Champions League and all of that, of ensuring that they get through somehow, some way or another. Because let's not forget that they've, whilst the European Super League was all going down, UEFA did sneak through a change to Champions League qualification, which makes opens up the ability for a couple of the bigger countries to guarantee places. So it does feel a little bit like complaining about one thing, but actually
definitely
it's they're sneaking other things through behind the scenes, so to speak. This is a turbo, so we'll see whether we have much of a play in this heads up, or whether it all gets over quite quick.
It's gone really quickly up to this, Leigh, and we've seen plenty of all-ins that haven't taken players out. So, remarkably so. But it feels like it's just absolutely zoomed through. So I'm not expecting this to go on long. I saw the remainder of C on Apple TV season 2.
The second season, yeah.
Very good, I thought. I mean, it's personal, of course, but I thought very good.
I've just finished Ted Lasso.
Fantastic!
Thoroughly enjoyed it, and a couple of the episodes that they did which were a bit more of a standalone ones that they did, I just thought were beautiful. The Christmas episode is stunningly good. Stunningly well written, and it just sits there as a bit of a standalone if you want it to be perfectly honest. But I thought just beautifully done. Thoroughly enjoyed that. I saw I haven't read it yet, but I saw a link to it on her Twitter. Victoria Coren Mitchell, her Twitter talks about Marmite and something or other, but then she does a link to her write-up of Ted Lasso. So I haven't read it yet, but I've got to go and have a read of that. I think she writes for either the Guardian or the Observer, I think. So I'm going to have to go and have a read of that just to find out what her take is on on all of that. Normally it's quite good, but we'll have to go and see. Obviously, she's been hugely tweeting about Strictly Come Dancing for the last few weeks.
Okay, yeah, I've definitely missed that.
Well, obviously because so Robert Webb was in Strictly Come Dancing, who obviously is the kind of I suppose comedy partner of her husband, I guess is the way to Mitchell and Webb. So but then I think he's now had to pull out for some reason, so but she's massively got into that. But I do quite enjoy what Victoria has to say about anything, obviously with the poker link as well. It's always fascinating. It's always fascinating when she drops a poker comment into Only Connect on a Monday night.
All right, okay.
It's always interesting that she does that. She still has the roots there, which is always quite quite interesting. Did you know that she had she was on a show, it's not Come Dine With Me, it's the one where they get 4 or 5 of them together and they all put their credit cards in the middle and they play little games whilst they're having a dinner, and one of them pays for the dinner.
Oh no, I don't remember that.
It's a show. It's only recently been on. So 5 celebrities, and they basically all sit down for dinner and they just film it and they play little games at the dinner table, and basically you can win your card back, and then whoever's credit card is left in the middle pays for dinner. I can't think what the show's called, but she was on it she might have been on it the week Harry Redknapp was on, possibly. But there's one of the games they play where you have to text somebody on your phone and you have to get them to text you back a word, but you're not allowed to ask them to text you the word. You've got to send them a message which gets them to text you the word. And so they all pick somebody to message. So she's on the show, and the person she chose to text to send the message to get back was Keith the Camel from
Oh, really? Keith Hawkins. Fantastic.
Yeah. So which I thought was absolutely brilliant, because most people watching the show wouldn't even know who he was, but obviously, for those that follow poker and were been on Blonde Poker Forum would know Keith.
Keith Hawkins,
very, very well indeed. And obviously they're very good friends, and so obviously play at the Vic a lot and that kind of thing. So,
did he get the word back to her?
I think she was second back or something like that. I don't think she was first back, but it's
right word.
It's quite entertaining. What's that?
Did he get the right word?
Yeah, he got the right word.
Oh,
got the right word. But it was a little bit. But yeah, it's a good little show actually. It's quite the one with Harry Redknapp is absolutely brilliant.
I haven't seen it at all. What's that called? Can you remember?
I can't remember what it's called. Somebody in the chat might know what it's called. I think it's not Come Dine With Me, because Come Dine With Me is that one where they all go to dinner together. But
Mr. Haycock has said, "I'll get this." Is that it? I'll get this.
Oh, maybe that's it. I'll get this, because it's the last one has to pay for it. So I'll get this. So it could be.
Perfect.
Yeah, it could be.
Nice.
Yeah, that could be it. But it's
Nice
very,
call,
very
Paul.
good. I think it's on BBC, but it might be Channel 4. But it's really really quite entertaining to watch. But the one with Victoria on it is really. I think it was Victoria that she didn't even have a credit card to put into. She just put cash in the middle. I think she put a wad of cash in the middle. Yeah, so which is even better, isn't it? Really. So yeah, it's very, very good. So this Heads Up is rocking on quite nicely.
It's going on longer than I thought it would do, Leigh. No problems with that, of course.
No, none whatsoever. We should have probably just mentioned that Jared McLeod is from the UK, and Brian J. Cunningham is from Canada. So loads of Canadian players always playing APAT games, which is always nice to see. Bearing in mind that I suppose it's a good time of the day for them, isn't it?
Well, they're over there having a few harps.
Yeah, it's the right.
Life is good.
Right time of the day for them to be playing, because it's still kind of a Sunday afternoon, early evening, isn't it? So
so what did you make of Captain Kirk finally making it into space? It's got to be the week's big story.
Awesome. I don't know whether you've seen this week's spitting image, but this week's spitting image is absolutely brilliant. So they've got him going up into space as a puppet, and up he goes, and it's like they over the announcement, it's like, we're now into, and so he starts the whole boldly going where no man is. So he starts rattling off this whole speech, and then after about 30 seconds, they go, right, we're now back out of space. And he's like, well, that was it. I've got another 10 pages to read yet. Like, because you're not up there for very long, are you? That's the thing with these. And it's like 5 million or something like that it costs to do. I'm not sure how much it is, but incredible. What, 90-year-old? So I say the oldest, now officially the oldest person to have gone into space. I'm not quite sure whether it is quite into space. So we had it as a quiz question on Friday night in the quiz, and I wasn't quite sure how I worded it, because into space felt a little bit like it's like touching space and then dropping back down again quite quickly. Old Jeff Bezos has got it spot on, isn't he? Yeah, I'm not going to let you stay there for very long, but you can't say you didn't experience it. So, but incredible, really. Yeah,
I guess as
absolutely
long as
amazing.
you can see the orb of the Earth,
Yeah.
that's what you're paying for. That
Oh, and I know
shot.
there's a lot of people that say, well, environmentally, it's not good, and but I don't know. It's a thing which I suppose if you can
not many of them
experience it
going.
and you can do it, if you can experience it, then and pay for it, and well, hey, I don't think I think if you had the money, it's very few people that wouldn't say, well, I wouldn't mind having that on my list of things that I've done in life.
Agree.
But good for him. And it's obviously quite unique that it's him, isn't it? That it's with everything he's done career wise.
I still love that as a kid. Star Trek.
I can't believe this is genuinely, because this is a turbo tournament. This is normally absolutely flies through. Blinds are at 40,000, 80,000.
I got plenty of blinds.
Means they've both got about 22 bigs, 23 bigs each. So actually there's not in any major rush, to say the least. Just looking at the where we are with the bounties, actually, because there's not a huge amount to play for, because it's normally the 2 bounties that you can see on the screen, and you multiply that by 2, which is effectively then what the final bounty is that you're playing for. So so they're playing for about $60, I guess. Brian's already pocketed $47 in bounties. Jared's got $14. So I guess it's Jared that would love the win here, because it would get him just ahead on the payout for the night. But for Brian, obviously, plus the 80 that he's going to win, it could end up him scooping about $190 for the tournament for a $10 buy-in, which is it would be nice, to say the least.
Well, it seems to be getting a little more racy now, because they've both committed chips in the last couple of pots. But I thought it was the overall more the pace of the game, rather than the fact that they're not necessarily in trouble at either of them at the moment. That might see this one end quickly. But despite the pretty pacey final table that we've had, they've managed to slow it down a bit.
Yeah, so Brian's just moved into right, let's push the all-in button and see what happens. So Jared's now down to 14 bigs, as the blinds have just gone up. So, but Jared's still playing kind of a bit pot controlled, happy to limp in from the small blind and hopefully see a flop. It's whether Brian will continue to apply the pressure and say, well, I'm not going to let you see any cards on the cheap, but he's gonna let this one go. Not the most exciting of boards to either player to see, but could, with the rate, the situation here, they could have hit either of them. Yeah, quite possibly. Case of who bets first. Jared bets first and gets that one through. Don't forget that Leaderboard Ladders will be in week 33 of this, starting tomorrow night. It's 6 max at 7 o'clock, and then it's the Glory that is the PLO8 at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. Always a good start to the week. $5.50 buy-ins on both of those. Do we have the final result for this week, Leigh? Yeah, well, I think we probably do, Des. That's not to say that it couldn't potentially change, but I don't think it's going to. I think we're pretty much going to be done for the week, because I've got the result of this one in where I think it's going to go, but I don't think either of these are going to actually affect the I don't think actually either of them will. Oh, actually the winner will squeeze into the top 20. So whichever one of them does get a win here will squeeze into the top 20. But let me see if I can bring up the whilst we're watching this one, because there's nothing going on. I'll just see if this hand plays out a second, and I'll then quickly bring up the because it's a surprise at the top. It's not who I was expecting, but it's good because it saved us. It's going to save us a bit of cash, so it's a right result really for us. We're quite happy because Matty Ogilvy and Tony Ross didn't improve on their points tonight. And they both were on step 5, Des. So, in fact, actually, the guys that have finished 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th are all step 5. guys this week.
Wow.
However, we've been saved in first place by somebody who's on step 1. So the 3 tickets at the top.
Wow, that's amazing.
Have been saved. But we'll just watch this hand play out just to check they don't have any huge action. No, we don't. So Gary Roberts has done us a favor.
Wow.
So Gary gets 3 cashes for the week, and he ends up with 142 points. So very well done to him.
Nice job.
He finished 5th in the deep stack tonight, and he finished 9th in the main event. So a couple of decent runs with some decent runners, obviously, gets him top of the leaderboard. So he'll pick up the three tickets. And as I say, I've currently got Jared as winning this one, but whether it's Jared or Brian, whichever one of them it is, we'll pick up the other place in the top 20. So we'll see how that one pans out. But yeah, Gary Roberts is going to the top of the leaderboard. Matty in 2nd, Tony 3rd, Brendan 4th, and Konstantin Chersin in 5th. Yanni's also in that top 20. You can see Don Logan is in there with 3 cashes this week from earlier on in the week. So yeah, all good.
Fantastic. Well done, guys.
Yeah, so nice. And don't forget, if you want to get involved, you don't need to play all of the tournaments. It's 2 tournaments a night, 4 tournaments on a Sunday. All of them count towards leaderboard ladder points. You just need to cash. If you cash, you pick up points based on the where you finish and the number of runners in the tournament. Buy-ins don't affect that whatsoever. Nothing you need to do. It's real name tournaments. We keep track of it all for you. So as long as you're registered on apat.com and you've popped in your email and your name and details there, so we've got a record of you, then you'll be entitled to any added value that's available. And as I say, I normally rack them up for a couple of weeks and then we'll fire them out into people's accounts. So yeah, nothing else you need to do other than use those tokens if you manage to win them. If you get in the top 20, you move up a step. So you can go from anywhere from step 1 up to step 5. So if you're in the top 20, you move up a step. If you're out of the top 20, you move down a step. Can't be any lower than step 1. Step 1 is a $5.50 ticket. Then it goes $11, $22, $33. And if you're on step 5, you can potentially win $55 tickets. So the likes of Matty, Tony, Brendan, and Konstantin this week that have finished 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th will pick up 2 $55 tickets each. For their efforts this week. Great added value if
Sweet.
You can
if
you can do it, and you don't need to say these guys have gotten to the top by cashing in 3 tournaments. So fire a few early bullets on the $5.50 ones at the start of the week. Maybe if you have a couple of cashes, maybe then then play a few more, see if you can get in there. If not, then or wait until the following week. Entirely up to you, whatever you fancy playing. But always good structured tournaments. Start at 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock every night, apart from a Sunday where we have an extra one at 5 o'clock and 9 o'clock. And most tournaments are done within sort of 3-4 hours maximum. So pretty much all done before midnight UK time every night of the week.
Good story. That works.
The facts check out. Yeah, absolutely. So we'll just wait for this one to come to conclusion. It's been a good heads up, actually. It's been a little bit of play, and actually even this particular hand here now. There's
an interesting one, Leigh.
Yeah, it's not going crazy with the pot. It's been kind of a little away. You normally feel that's a sign of strength from Brian when he's looking to put a small bet out. What was it? The last hand it was like half pot. He's done half pot again this time. And Jared makes the call, and he's got kings and actually had the king of diamond as well. So he got maximum value, I think, out of Jared there. Jared's just shoved all in very next hand. Not sure whether Brian he has decided to make the call with the 4s. Jared's going to need a king or a 10 or a 5 as well now, and hits a 4 on the river. So Brian's going to get the full house hand done, and that is going to be us done. So my guess was wrong. It was the other way around, but I will update that result. I will say it's not going to make any difference to who's at the top of the leaderboard. But very well done to Brian J. Cunningham from Canada, who picks up the win in the final event of the week. Very well done to him. He ends up picking up, as I said, Des, $120 in bounties in the end, plus his 82. So he's picked up $200 for $11 buy-in. So 20 times your buy-in. Very nice for what was effectively, what did that run for? 3 hours.
Yeah,
so,
really nice little tournament.
Perfect on a Sunday night. Yeah,
always
perfect
shoots
on a
through the
Sunday night.
guarantee. So I think that's us there. No massive change to the sort of leaderboard for the week. So I guess, Leigh, we're gonna say goodnight to everybody. Good luck to you all in the week ahead. As Leigh said, the big schedule of events going every evening for you. And Leigh and I will be back next Sunday night, where we'll do it all again to let you know who tops this week's leaderboard. So have a great week, guys, and we will see you on Sunday.